Kia ora everybody, Chris Farhi here from the Bayleys Insights Data team. We've got Eos Li from our team to talk about the biggest news in New Zealand real estate. Now, something pretty cool today, Eos. Whereabouts are we?
Yeah, so currently we're in the penthouse of Omana North in Milford. It's a 3-bedroom apartment with 4 bathrooms. It has 181 square meters. It's only 5 minutes walk to Milford Beach and it's on the doorstep of Milford Town Centre. It has great design, beautiful views, so if you want to learn more, please contact John Barton or Kirsten Bishop from Bayleys residential team.
So getting into the news, so the big news this week was actually offshore with the collapse of a couple of banks in the United States. So this was the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank and the Signature Bank. On top of that, there was also a big acquisition going down with the acquisition of Credit Suisse by its rival UBS. So 2 perspectives on this. So the first is that some of these banking issues are obviously suggesting some weaknesses in the economy and the overall outlook for what might happen over the coming months. But on the flip side, economists have pointed out that this will probably be good for interest rates in a way that kind of bad news is actually good news. And so if you translate that to the New Zealand property markets, one of the factors that might come through is less pressure on interest rates, which, given that that's been the big factor impacting the market, might actually be positive for prices.
Next up, the government provides update on next steps about properties affected by Cyclone Gabrielle and floods. The update is from government's Cyclone Task Force. The government is currently working with insurance companies and local councils to assess high-risk areas. It is expected to make decisions over the next months and about next steps for high-risk areas. The update includes clarifications on yellow and red stickered properties. The stickers indicate immediate safety risk, not necessarily future risk.
Yeah, before we move on, so we're filming with the view out this way, and it's quite funny because it's absolutely amazing. And it's a little bit distracting, so if you see me sort of glaze out that way, it's what I'm looking at. Next up, Stats New Zealand released the latest findings from their Household Economic Survey. And so what this is a survey that they carry out every year or so, about 10,000 households looking at how they receive and spend their money. And so the key finding from this latest survey was that homes that are renting faced bigger housing affordability issues than those who owned their homes. So the key stat there was that 1 in 4 households who rent their property spent more than 40% of their household income on housing costs, and that compared to 1 in 5 households who own their property with a mortgage. Now, within the stats, they had quite an interesting thing from their long-term data, and that was that costs for rent had increased about 93% on average, whereas mortgage payments had increased about 48% over the past 15 years. And that was quite curious because obviously house prices have picked up hugely over that period. But what's also happened is that interest rates have generally trended down over 15 years as well. And so that means that the payments for those with mortgages have actually not increased at the same rate as rents. So I just thought that was quite an interesting stat, and I guess a good reason to own a house.
Next up, New Zealand's first commercial vertical farm received the 3.5 million government boost. The company is named Green Grower. It's based in Waikato Innovation Park in Hamilton. It's a self-contained facility growing leafy greens, and it uses only 1% of the water compared with traditional outdoor farming. The government has provided 3.5 million to support research and development.
Next up, the government has released a consultation document for its strategy around EV charging facilities across New Zealand. And so the government is effectively consulting on its goals for what it should be doing for EV charging. This is part of their wider plans around reducing emissions across New Zealand. Now, in terms of some of the key elements of this, they're proposing goals including charging hubs along main highways, public charging hubs at community facilities, and having at least 1 public EV charger for every 20 to 40 electric vehicles within an urban area. So quite interesting. One of the areas that we think is a little bit tricky and that they'll need to get their heads around is how EV chargers are implemented into more intensive properties, specifically large commercial properties and also multi-unit residential, because in some of those cases the car park configuration or the infrastructure for buildings can be quite problematic for implementing wide-scale EV chargers. And finally, to wrap up, we've got our property of the week. So I'll start off this week. I've got 35 Fareham Lane in Renwick in Marlborough. And so this is architectural excellence overlooking the vines. It's an expansive 518 square metre home sitting on 8.18 hectares. It's got 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 living areas. And it's also got a 6.77 hectare vineyard planted with Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay. And if you want to learn more about this one, contact Kurt Lindsay or Taryn Mason from Bayleys Marlborough. Eos, what about yourself?
I've got the property right here. It's a penthouse in Omana North in Milford. It has 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and it has 181 square meters. It's only 5 minutes walk to Milford Beach, and it's on the doorstep of Milford Town Centre. It has great design and beautiful views. If you want to learn more, please contact John Button or Kirsten Bishop from the Bayleys residential team.
Yeah, so this apartment's absolutely beautiful, and if you want probably one of the nicest views in Auckland, it's well worth checking out. And with that said, we'll wrap it up here. So massive thanks to the vendor of this property, the Bayleys Residential Projects team. Eos, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Ciao.